Okay, now we actually.
And family still here.
Okay. We actually are on the next page, on page Chov Hey, Baruch Hashem. But I feel that I want to add one more notch. We have an extensive discussion this morning about Chochmah and the significance of knowledge. Because of our natural and tendency to correlate knowledge as we know it and the seichel as we know it in our worldly experience. So that which Chassidus has mentioned, we are bound to misunderstand what Chassidus is talking about. Particularly when it has a term like koyach ho'atzmi. Koyach ho'atzmi. What's koyach ho'atzmi? A koyach, in the way we perceive a koyach is you train it. You take a child and you teach him to walk, and after some people call it training, just like how you train a dog. You can train a human being. A human being is more trainable than a dog, lahavdil. But it's still a thing from training. And the same thing when it comes to seichel. He experiences, he practices, and then he learns how to think, he learns how to figure things out. There isn't a koyach atzmi, it's the whole koyach is. Want to help him out? Yes, help him out. A koyach atzmi. We don't think of a koyach as an atzmi. As a matter of fact, we don't even think of a seichel as a koyach. We think of machshava as a koyach. And as you think logically, that becomes seichel. This is how we perceive it in our worldly experience. And here all of a sudden we say, no, there's a koyach hanefesh, it's called chokhmah. A koyach hanefesh is called bina, and a koyach hanefesh is called das. Machshava is only a lavush, is only a garment. Please. Machshava is only a garment. It's not a real koyach hanefesh. And yet, the way we perceive it in the physical arena, as a matter of fact, this is probably the official view, that because we present things logically, and that becomes seichel. So I want to point out that this is not the reality. And because of this misunderstanding, people are at a loss to distinguish between a human being and an animal. Because animals also can be trained. They talk about trained dogs that are trained, house training, and they're trained all kinds of different things, and dogs can perform wonders, very important services to human beings, if they're properly trained. But it's totally, day and night is not even a proper way of comparing it to a human being. This is a proper way if we understand truly the difference between day and night. But again, we even are at a loss to understand the correct distinction. So we are saying koyach ho'atzmi. There is a koyach ha'chochma. This koyach ha'chochma is sensitive to nefesh. It actually senses what nefesh is. It senses what oinigen rotzen is. As a result of that, this koyach actually makes us aware, for us, of a truth that is higher than world. That is a nefesh truth. The principle of emunah. What's emunah? Again, total misunderstanding. People perceive emunah as something that we just trained ourselves to think in a certain way. That's not emunah. This is akin with the methodology of the cults. You know, think this way, and that becomes your emunah. That's not emunah. Emunah is the what's called the koiche shel yud. Chochma is the yud. Emunah is the koiche shel yud, the tip of the yud. That which is beyond understanding altogether. This is where the total sensitivity to the truth of the nefesh is. And then we have in the Rambam that before we even start thinking with chokhmah, with wisdom, with seichel, we already know that there is a first being. That knowledge precedes everything. Where does it come from? That's before any training, before any activity. All activity takes place on the basis of that knowledge. When as an infant we look out on the world and we see one world, that is on the basis of the fact that there is one reality behind it. This is why it's one world. All right, just wanted to clarify this because we are now talking about the koyach ho'atzmi, that there is from the chocham that knows koyach ho'atzmi. Koyach ho'atzmi means the essential koyach, not before it came with the gilu. Gilu is the function aspect of the koyach. So when it functions, we become aware of it. Again, it's possible to completely miss it, but it's also possible to identify it. It's like, oh, there's sensitivity. Like we pointed out many times, you know, when you have a mashal of I'll have the cold water. Just give me a regular cup. Thank you. Like we said, we're all sensitive to a human element, to a simcha. And thank you. And this simcha is a sensitivity. There's a seichel d'kinyan. You can be trained for this. There's a seichel d'kinyan. All right. Okay, so now we are back to Torah. And this is the pshat that Torah is called B'tzalmeinu. B'tzalmeinu, our form. What's meant our form? Hashem's own form. Because the Chokhmah is called a tzelem. Like we spoke about throughout this whole moshel over here. Chokhmah is called a tzelem. Chokhmah is knowledge. Knowledge is a form. Even though we're saying that there is etzem koyach ha-chokhmah, but this is etzem koyach ha-chokhmah, which means that this is the etzem, that this is the etzem of this tzelem, of how it reflects and it takes and it relates to Elokus, to the etzem.
Tselem is a replica?
Tselem
is a replica?
Yeah. Tselem is a replica. Like the Rebbe said before in the original Mishori, a statue that has the entire, that has the full formulation of the body, not just an image, but the actual thing. Chochmah is a tzelem. Why is Chochmah a tzelem? It's been explained throughout these pages multiple times, because Chochmah is totally self-evasive. It does not have a self. In other words, it does not know things by personal experience. It completely reflects that which shines upon it. That's why it's called Talmeinu, Tzelem.
And do we use the same that language as Chochmah in the higher state?
I mean, yeah.
The state above it.
There are spoons. There are no spoons around. Okay. One.
The state that's higher than the Tzilus.
I'm sorry? Yeah.
Chochmah that's higher than the Tzilus. We're also calling it Tzelem?
Yeah, well, that's what the Rebbe says. That from Talmeinu, Talmeinu refers to even a higher than Atzilus. It's all I'm saying Tzelem Mo'atzmi, which is the Chochmah Hagduma. Chochmah that is contained within the Etzem itself. That's what's called Talmeinu. Because that's Chochmah really is the Tzelem of the Lakus. Okay, there's always more to say about it, but we will pursue it, and as time goes on, we'll bring in perhaps more
that level we have no way, we don't have a way to relate to it.
We don't have a way to relate to Chochmah Atzilus either. But to relate to it, I mean, suffice it to say, if we can understand that Chochmah by us is a real koyach, that enables us to understand that this is true higher and higher and higher.
So,
What?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Last Thursday here, we spoke of a Chochmah being sensitive to the true significance of the nefesh, and then you gave that martial class. We spoke about it last Thursday. And here on the bottom, there is a martial about Chocham knowing of his own etzem koyach HaChochmah. Now, are we talking here about these are two same things or no?
Well, two different things. Yeah, two different. This is talking about knowing the etzem koyach HaChochmah, not the functioning Chochmah. Okay.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
So, where we're holding right now, this mushal of, we're still in the mushal of the Chacham knowing Etzem Koyach Chachmosai?
No, we went back to the Nimshal of the Torah, how Torah is rooted in Atmas HaChochmah Na'olama.
So then, this whole thing is a discussion of Tzura Atzmis, yeah?
Right.
And the tselem now that we're talking about of Chokhmah, is this, so far anyway, at our stage, this is what we understand as Tzura Atzmis?
Mm-hmm.
So this Chokhmah Hanelam and Atzmus, it's not Atzmus, but it's the Tzura of Atzmus.
Right.
And this is Torah.
And this is the root of Torah.
The Torah itself is, in effect, the Tzura of Atzmus.
Well, Torah is Mechochma Nafkos. This is like the Gili of the Surah Atzmus.
Uh-huh. Okay. What happens...
So it means it's rooted in the Surah Atzmus. Yeah.
What is when the Tzura is... This is the Gili of it, so does that remove it from the realm of Tzelem, of Tzalmenu?
It's rooted in Tzalmenu. It is representative of Tzalmenu. This is Tzalmenu as it is given to us here in Lamata.
Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat these two lines. I'm going to start on the bottom of page Chavdala just to finish off. This is repeating completely what we already learned. The bottom line, V'zeu shenikra atera b'tzalmeinu. And this is why Torah is called b'tzalmeinu. Lefi sheshorsho, because its root is mibechinas atzmes hachochma ne'elomas. Its root is from the bechina of etzem hachochma, hane'eloma, the concealed chochma, the essential chochma. The im heyesa bechinas yidiyo. That chochma, even though it's chochma, therefore it is bechinas yidiyo. Yidiyo v'chochma. It is in knowledge and chochma, and knowledge and chochma is like knowing something from outside. It's a tzelem, but ein no bechinas gilui klal. Nonetheless, it is not an idea that have as an element of gilui, because that's normally what idea is, to know something by identity. It is the bechina of knowing the etzem. The moshul for knowing the etzem was the moshul of the chocham knowing his etzem koyach chocham. Knowing the etzem. What does the chocham know about his etzem koyach chochma? Doesn't know the etzem koyach chochma. He cannot not know it. He knows that he knows his chochma in the sense that he can understand any chochma. That's what he knows. He knows how this chochma will manifest itself. And he knows it mitzadu etzem, not because he tries it out and he has experience with it. This is the bechina, what we call tzura atzmis. Shelamaylam bechinas gilui. Tzura atzmis, the essential tzura that is above that which qualifies as a gilui. Gilui means some kind of expression, a practical and a functional expression. Atzem means the essential thing itself. And as much as we struggle in relating to the concept of etzem, I think that ultimately it should become more obvious and more acceptable. And the primary illustration of that is that a human being is a human being regardless of how he lives, how he functions, regardless to what extent his seichel is developed. He is in essence a human being. Hinei be'emes, in truth, this is going further. The truth is this is where it comes to word be'emes. When it says be'emes, means that this is beyond the expressed description. This is on the level of an essential truth. You can't even, so to speak, bring it out on some kind of an expression. If you perceive things from a truth perception, you will see things completely different. What is a truth perception? Okay, hopefully I have you with me and I'd like you to understand this. What is it? See, be'emes. Till now we were talking sheker. What's meant be'emes? Again, going back to our fundamental reality, there's a first being. From this first being, everything comes. From the truth of the first being, everything comes. Therefore, everything that exists is representative of the truth of this first being. Even though everything is representative of the truth of the first being and everything has an element of truth that is approximating his truth, there's a fundamental difference between the way he perceives it and the way it is perceived, the way it exists after it emanates. How it represents him. Yes, indeed, this is Amitis Himotze.
So one more time, there's a big difference between how things are.
Amitis Himotze nimtzu kol hanimtzoim, and how Amitis Himotze is unto himself. It's a different reality, a different truth. So the Iha Torah, as we were discussing, Torah comes from Chochmah and represents the Psalmen and so forth. This is still speaking about the Torah as from the perspective of a present, not a present, a Metzius, but something that's being presented. Amitis Himotze nimtzu kol hanimtzoim. And therefore, in kol hanimtzoim there is an element of Amitis Himotze. But the Amitis Himotze in itself is that's the emes. That's the complete truth. So when we say emes, we mean going beyond the created stage. And this is when he said, be'emes, shoyresh ha'toiro. From the perspective of emes, the shoyresh ha'toiro, the root of Torah is l'maylo gam mebchinas chochma agduna. Is beyond even the bechin of chochma hagduma. Of the pristine chochma hagduma. Chochma hagduma means the chochma that is, as we explained before, chochma that is contained in the etz, and that is representative. That why is it that chochma? Because of what the etzem is. So it is a chochma that is actually contained within the etzem element. It is there because of what the etzem is. Nevertheless, there is an inyan that is higher than chochma hagduma. B'hainu, and that is mebchinas asmus ein soy baruhu. This is that the etzem of ein soy baruhu. Chochma hagduma is chochma hagduma is the original chochma, and why it's called keduma? Keduma means it was not preceded by not being. That's mean keduma. because it comes to get, it is there because the etzem is there, because of what the etzem is. And as we discussed this morning, what's Aniyah Chochmah? Chochmah represents the truth of the etzem. The etzem itself is beyond the truth of the etzem. This is beyond the union from Chochmah Agdum. Chochmah Agdum, as we discussed this morning, requires, so to speak, an explanation. Why is there Chochmah in Atzmos? They explained because there is this fundamental truth. That's what there is called. Chochmah reflects on this fundamental truth. Amit is imotz. Etzem is beyond the fundamental truth. This is the etzem itself. And that's what it says. Haina beginas atzmos ein soy baru. The etzem of ein sof. Baru.
This is before this Chochmah?
This is before the Chochmah.
Before there is Chochmah.
It is above the Chochmah. This is the reason why there is Chochmah.
Doesn't everything come from there?
What?
Doesn't everything come from Atzmos and so forth? So why? Everything comes from. As you say, so why is Torah?
This question, okay.
Is it how we perceive?
No.
Is it how it's
No. Everything comes from there. But we are talking about like the Nefesh has Rotzen and Neunen, Chochmah, Bina, V'das. All of these kochas come from the Nefesh. Machshava, Dibur, Ma'aseh also come from the Nefesh. What's the difference?
How they exist, how they come out.
Without going into it, do you understand the difference?
Do I understand the difference?
I mean, you ask me a question. Is this something that is novel? I'm saying.
No, it's not.
Okay, so you understand the difference.
Basically.
Of course, everything originates, but it doesn't reflect it.
That's what, okay, that's what
Machshava, Dibur, Ma'aseh doesn't reflect the Nefesh. Machshava, Dibur, Ma'aseh reflects a functional aspect of the Nefesh, the koiches of the Nefesh.
That's what you were saying before. So this is the Torah, how it reflects.
That's it. מבחינת עצמוס אין סוי ברוך כמי שכוסו. And as the Pasuk says, that Torah speaks of itself and says, I was by him sha'ashuyim, his plaything, that which he enjoyed within himself. Which is what is described as sha'ashuy hamelech b'atzmusa, what the melech enjoys from within himself, of his own etzem. Sha'atainug, where the tainug, hu l'maylo min ha'chochmah, the tainug is higher than chochmah. The tainug is the etzem itself. Ukmei al derech moshel. And as for example, hatainug shebenefesh, as for example, in the case of tainug shebenefesh, the tainug that's in the nefesh, harei ze michlal atzmos hanefesh. This is actually included in the etzem of the nefesh. That's what tainug is. Tainug, this is going to be discussed now in different madrigas, different aspects of tainug.
it too early to ask a question here?
If it is a question from the side, yes, absolutely. If it is something that we don't understand what we're saying, it's something else.
Well, it relates to the shir from this morning.
I understand. That's too early. Yes, that it will surface as we go through.
You probably already know what my question's going to be, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I know I'm not on the wrong track.
Oh, God. Who would ever suspect you of being on the wrong track? Baruch. Okay. וכמי על דרך מושל התענג שבנפש, הרי זה מכלל עצמוס הנפש. What is the Inyan of Tainuk Shebenefesh? This is going to be discussed now, Tainuk Aposhul and so forth, as he's going to bring it out. In general, we pointed out an interesting thing in the last couple of days. We said Iraq is like an Atzmi. It's an entity that stands for itself, and it doesn't need anything. And as the Alter Rebbe describes it, that it defies any source. It's just there. It defies any tachlis, doesn't need a purpose. It's just a presence. This is like representative of an etz. What in fact is the difference between that etz and atzmus and etzmus? An etzem, a real etzem. So we explain that atzmi has absolutely no atzmi use. Stands for nothing. It doesn't even know that it exists. It's what's called the chitzonius of the chitzonius of the etzem element. Doesn't even know that it exists. It makes no difference to the rock whether it exists or it doesn't exist. Doesn't stand for anything. Like we always point out, a person, if you get a cut in your finger, you've cut your finger physically. You put a band-aid on, protect it against infection. In a couple of days, it heals like it wasn't there. Why? Because the life element, the fact that this is the way the hand is, this is where the finger is, this is something which has a fundamental truth about it. So even if it's cut, it'll heal itself. Because it insists to be what it is. You can go in and get more water. You want more water? It'll heal itself. Because it has a fundamental reason for being what it is. As a chayus. A rock, you crack it, it doesn't protest. Because there's no fundamental reality in it being one way or another. As a matter of fact, the minute if you crack it, it'll stay cracked and it won't protest. And it won't re-heal together. Because there is not a fundamental truth to its being what it is. a real etzem, like etzem a nefesh. A nefesh ha'odom, even have nefesh malchai, but nefesh ha'odom, most importantly, nefesh ha'odom is not there by default. It stands for something. It is there because it is actually focused on being what it is. Like we have explained recently several times, the statement called over Itzibikiyuma. Everything wants to be what it is. The nefesh wants to be what it is because what it is represents its own truth. What it is, what the godly truth that it represents. It's a fundamental reality. This is the oinik shebenefesh. The nefesh has oinik because of this truth of what nefesh is. In this oinik, as we pointed out, and which Baruch was troubled by, which we're going to get to later, that there is two aspects in the oinik. There is the personal experience, the personal element, and then there's the truth element. There's the godly element. That we'll touch on. Now, the chokhmah, as we said all the time, chokhmah is a receptacle for the truth of the Yetzer. Because it relates to the entire truth. It does not need to translate it, does not need to personal experience. It just relates to the truth as it is. So it's representative of the truth. A representative of the truth means that it is. Let's step back. And we have a good way to relate to this. Because Chokhmah is, as we always say, is similar to sight. Chokhmah is similar to sight. Because in sight also, what is the experience of sight? That you see an object not by virtue of your translation of what you see. Like in touch, you feel what you touch. Sight, you see the object because of its own truth. What there is to see, that's what you see. You don't affect it, the eye doesn't affect it at all. Now, how does a human being, let me put it in the most direct way. An animal also has sight. Lahab. Is the sight of a human being similar to the sight of the animal? Is the animal's vision the same as what the human being's vision? So we already discussed it many times. An animal, when it sees the tangible element. It projects, what is this thing? Is this thing edible, or is this going to hit me on the head? It doesn't relate to the truth of the object. It doesn't care for the truth of the object. Why? And a human being does. Like we said many times, that a human being, that his intellect is the primary interpreter of what's going on, the primary participant that he sees. It's his intellect that sees, and this is why a human being, when he encounters something in the dark, he projects what it looks like, An animal, when he encounters something in the light, he projects what it feels like. It's completely different worlds. Why is that? Because the human being has intellect. What's this intellect give him? The intellect tells him, the intellect knows that there is a true presence. That presence is not only that which affects me, it's not present only because it affects me, but it is there is truth to existence. Like we said, there's a first being. And that he knows, that he has in his intellect. Therefore, when he sees something, he sees this is true. This is part of the truth that I know that exists. And this is why he's able to see the truth of things. So now, in this process itself, he sees, and the sight is pure. But it is not the sight that tells him that it's true. What tells him that it's true? It is his nefesh that tells him that it's true. If he did not know that there's a first being, then this would not be true. So this knowledge that there's a first being, this is much deeper than that experience of sight. This knowledge that there's a first being, this is based inherent in the nefesh itself. This is connected to the oimen. This is the nefesh itself. That's what we're saying. The oimen, this is the nefesh itself. Chokhmah is wonderful. Just like sight is reflective of the chokhmah, of the intellect, of his knowing the truth, chokhmah is reflective of his oimen. Of his oimen, of the truth of the nefesh.
So could you just go over this last leg one more time? How does he know it's true? That's with his chokhmah. He knows it's so. But how does he know it's so? Where is that coming from? It's coming from higher than that. That's what you're saying?
Right.
And that's the Ayin?
Right. This is reflected in the chokhmah through the oimen.
So where is the truth? Where does that
The
live?
truth is in the nefesh itself. Like we said, there is a first being. That knowledge is inherent.
So this thing that you said troubled me, which was exactly what I was going to ask about, is that resolved now?
Not yet. I mean, it's resolved, but it's not officially resolved. We'll get to that.
Okay. Please point that out when you get to it. I don't want to miss that.
No, yeah, of course. Okay?
But this explains to us what Onig does for Chacham. It doesn't explain Onig itself.
Oh, so it's saying that Oinig is part and parcel of the nefesh. Because Oinig is not only a reflection, like Chokhmah is reflecting what truth there is, because it's beetle, it reflects what comes from the nefesh. But the Oinig is the experience of nefesh.
The experience of the nefesh is higher than the truth.
We will put it in perspective in the due time, Baruch. Believe me. I watched just when it stopped for some reason. Okay. Okay. Tainuk shebenefesh harei michlal atzmus hanefesh. This is michlal. This is included in atzmus hanefesh. Chochma is only reflective of it. It is a proper receptacle for this oil hanefesh. But tainuk, this is michlal atzmus hanefesh. This is part and parcel of the atzmus hanefesh itself. Again, it is one of those challenging moments because, again, Tainuk, we know what Tainuk is. I enjoy whatever it is, a good, a tasty piece of cake or an ice cream, whatever it is, that's Tainuk. The truth is that, yes, indeed, this is a kind of a derivative of the Tainuk HaNefesh. But here we're saying that there is a Tainuk HaNefesh. This is Miklal Etzem HaNefesh. In other words, this is not like a receiving koyach, receptacle for the nefesh. This is why I always say that the koyachas HaNefesh are starting from Chochma on. Tainuk HaRotzen are not koyachas. Tainuk HaRotzen, this is nefesh. Etzem HaNefesh. I started talking about the rock before, and I didn't finish this thing. The rock doesn't know that it exists. Why doesn't the rock know that it exists? Because it doesn't feel its existence. It has no tainug in its existence. It's insensitive to the fact that it exists. That is not, okay, this is not a true presence, true existence. Existence means, just like we speak all the time, first there has to be a first being. Because there's a first being, therefore there is something emanating from the first being into everything. Therefore there is a truth that emanates. Therefore it is worthy to pursue it and to know it. Therefore there's something to know. But if you do not have that knowledge of a first being, so then there is no sense in all existence. There is no oineg in it. So what is the knowledge? What do you know? There's no significance in knowing. And as a matter of fact, in the world, that is exactly the conclusion. There is not a difference between the human being and how to the animal. Knowing is only to know that is it dangerous, is it going to hurt you or not. There is no significance in knowing anything per se. Because there's no real presence in anything. If there is a real presence, then that presence appreciates itself. This is the oineg element. Appreciating itself is not a relative thing. I would say I appreciate myself versus somebody else. There is There is the truth element in its own presence. Like we asked the question, this classic question is now more than a year old. If the world should come to naught suddenly, to be eliminated from existence, suddenly, through whatever means that happens, and nobody suffers in the process, has anything tragic occurred? But since nobody suffered, so then nothing happened. So, from the superficial view of the world, that the only thing I'm concerned about is whether I'm going to have what to eat, I'm going to suffer or not suffer, whether it's pleasant or not, I'm going to get hurt or not get hurt. So then, this whole thing is insignificant, really, in essence. So therefore, if it eliminates without suffering, then nothing happens. Nothing happens. Rahman Hassan, this is the theory of euthanasia. He's not suffering, but he's a living human being. He's not suffering, so it's okay. We see it completely differently. We see that there's a fundamental reality in the world, and Chas v'Sholem. Whenever Chassidus mentions if the Eibusher should Chas v'Sholem decide not to continue creating the world, we are Chas v'Sholem. Not because there's going to be suffering, no suffering. Because Chas v'Sholem, his whole reality that the Eibusher has given is withdrawn. There's whole godly truth and the whole godly decision to create the world, which is in itself a godly truth, is being withdrawn. That is really a what should I that really is would be a tragedy beyond tragedy. Because there is a true significance, a profound truth, a godly level of significance in the existence of the world. The whole world is to bring out the Malchus Shamayim in the world. However, to whatever degree we understand it, is it's very difficult to judge, but L'Peil Mamash we all recognize. Every human being recognizes. Every human being recognizes. If you ask him the question, you start debating why, wait for it, he can't explain it. But every human being senses, oh, that would be tragic. This is too real. This is too real. What's the reality of it? This is the godly reality. The nefesh is real. And real means that it senses and appreciates its own reality. And the world appreciates its own reality. There's an inherent godly oineg in the world. Like we say all the time, like my quote just now. Kol dover reitze b'kiyumei. Kol dover reitze b'kiyumei. And we are making a categorical distinction between that statement and the Darwinian statement, everything wants to persist to exist. That existence is totally without significance. We're talking about the kiyumoya. It should be what the Rebbe made it, what godly element that he represents. This is the meaning of Oynek Shebenefesh. That's why he said that this is part and parcel, and this is Mechlal HaNefesh. Because a nefesh without Oynek is not a nefesh. May it be as powerful as anything, without Oynek, without appreciating its own existence, without having a sense of what its the value and significance, it's not an existence. Okay, Baruch, here is to you. I don't have much time, this is just the first in it. This is what we are pointing out all the time. Called over Reitzibiki has two implications. It appreciates what it is. But what is the pneumius of that? It appreciates the elokus that it represents. That is, even within the Oynek itself, it's a hidden element. And this is more manifest in the Chochmah, as we're going to see, than even in the Oynek. But this is really part of the Oynek, but this is like the pneumius of the Oynek. Oynek per se is part of the Nefesh. But within that, there is a pneumius dikiyim. All right.
Again, the pneumius is?
What?
What is this pneumius again?
That the interpretation is mitzad the godly truth that it is, not because of its own appreciation of its own being. But it stands. It is a living thing. But the fact that there's a godly element in it, amiti is him also. This is why Roitze B'Kiyim. This is why it really appreciates it. This is beyond the experienced Oynek. This is what we're going to say, the Oynek beyond experience. Let me just establish our station and then we'll go. Okay, so we are on the line that begins on Atzmus HaNefesh, begins on Taina Go Atzmi, the Atzmus Ein Sof. Torah is rooted in Taina Go Atzmi, the Atzmus Ein Sof. How are we going to present it? How are we going to put it in words? We are going to qualify it immediately, saying this is just a manner of speech. But Atzmus Ein Sof appreciates itself. This is the Taina Go Atzmi. And this is where Torah is rooted. And now we're going to interrupt for Ma'ariv, and we will reconvene tomorrow morning.
Gute Nacht.
Gute Nacht.